Have you ever watched a 5-minute YouTube video and suddenly understood something you've been confused about for years, but then read a textbook for 30 minutes and forgot everything except how badly you need a snack? You're not alone, and no, your brain isn't broken. Turns out, YouTube might just be one of the best learning tools on the planet, even if it's sandwiched between a cat video and a guy making ramen in the forest. Let's be real. Traditional learning feels like a slow-motion car crash. You're in a lecture hall, fluorescent lights buzzing, someone coughing behind you every 12 seconds. The professor's voice sounds like it's being played through a toaster. You're trying to understand molecular biology while also wondering if the guy next to you is asleep or just blinking in slow motion. Now compare that to being at home, in your own space. You search, what even is the Krebs cycle? Find a video with fun animations, a calm voice, and boom, it clicks. You're actually learning. And here's the kicker. When you're watching YouTube, you're usually alone. That means no social pressure, no peer distractions, and no pretending to take notes while actually drawing swords in your notebook. You're focused, you're engaged, you're choosing what to learn and how to learn it. According to research published by Time, people often learn better in solitude, especially when the task requires deep focus. The article cites how high performers, like elite athletes and musicians, often rely on solo practice for breakthroughs, not group sessions. Why? Because when you're alone, your brain isn't scanning the room for social cues or trying to decode what the person beside you whispered. It's locked in. Okay, so why does your brain actually prefer YouTube? Let's get nerdy, but in a fun way. First off, your brain loves visuals. Studies show that people remember 65% of visual content 3 days later, compared to just 10% of written or spoken information. That's why you can still picture the How Volcanoes Work animation from 5th grade, but you can't remember anything from your last Zoom lecture. Then there's the multi-tool of learning, video. YouTube taps into not just sight, but sound, pacing, story, and emotion. It's like giving your brain a buffet, instead of handing it one cold, dry fact at a time. But here's where it gets even more interesting. You're in control. You pause when confused, rewind when curious, speed up when it's basic. This is called self-directed learning, and psychologists love it. In fact, self-determination theory, a major framework in motivational psychology, says that when people feel autonomy, their motivation skyrockets. You choose the topic, the teacher, the timing. It's like customizing your own education playlist. Compare that to traditional school, where you're being force-fed topics you didn't choose by someone who may or may not be using the same PowerPoint since 2006. In a study published in Learning Environments Research, Springer, 2021, students in more autonomous learning settings showed stronger emotional engagement, better retention, and more adaptive learning strategies. Translation: when you feel like you're in charge, your brain steps up. So yeah, that 12-minute video about quantum tunneling with cool neon visuals and lo-fi beats, that's not slacking. That's neuroscience-approved learning. Let's talk about the biggest brain saboteur of all, other people. Now don't get me wrong, friends are great, but when it comes to learning, they're basically walking pop-up ads. You sit down in a study group, and within 10 minutes, someone's asking, wait, did we have homework? Then someone brings snacks, then someone brings gossip, then your brain brings a big fat nothing to the test tomorrow. Science backs this up. According to the distraction conflict theory, just having someone else in the room makes your brain work harder, not smarter. Your attention is split. You're unconsciously monitoring their movements, emotions, even their breathing. In short, other people are Wi-Fi for your anxiety. Now contrast that with watching a YouTube video alone. It's just you, your interest, and maybe a cookie. No social judgment, no performative nodding, no pretending you're taking notes when you're actually doodling a sword fight between mitochondria. And it gets deeper. There's something called the Ringelmann effect. which sounds fancy, but basically means the more people involved, the less effort each person puts in. It was first observed in people pulling ropes, but you've definitely seen it in group projects. There's always that one person Googling memes while you do all the work. So when you're learning solo, with YouTube as your trusty sidekick, you're actually cutting out the dead weight. You're not performing, you're absorbing. You're not keeping pace with a group, you're sprinting ahead at your own speed. It's not antisocial, it's pro-focus. Let's test something. Think of the last time you tried to learn something from a textbook. Anything. History, math, biology. Now, what do you actually remember? Be honest. Probably just the feeling of flipping pages, zoning out, and checking your phone. Now think of a YouTube video that explains something with a story. Maybe it was the one that compared the stock market to a pizza party, or the guy who used cartoons to teach calculus, or that channel that explained World War II like it was a movie trailer. You probably still remember the visuals, the jokes, maybe even the music. That's not just coincidence. That's your brain doing its job. When you learn through stories, emotion, and multisensory input, your brain lights up like a Christmas tree. According to a study in the journal Brain and Language, emotional content enhances memory by activating the amygdala, the part of your brain responsible for both emotion and learning. In simple terms, feeling something helps you remember it. And YouTube is full of that. The best educational videos aren't just information dumps, they're little experiences. They're crafted with pacing, humor, tension, payoff. Basically, they're content your brain actually wants to keep. Compare that to a bullet point slide in Arial font saying, "Photosynthesis is the process by which plants..." Your brain took one look at that and said, "No thanks, let's remember every line from Shrek instead." YouTube taps into how we're wired to learn. Not by memorizing disconnected facts, but by linking knowledge to visuals, emotions, and context. Let's get one thing straight. Just because you're learning through YouTube doesn't mean you're cheating or cutting corners or being lazy. You're not. You're just learning smarter. You chose the topic, you picked the teacher whose voice doesn't sound like dying Wi-Fi. You watched it in your own time, at your own pace, in a way your brain actually enjoys. That's not slacking off. That's using tools that work. YouTube isn't just entertainment, it's education with a personality. And the science agrees. So when people say, YouTube isn't real learning, just smile and remember, you're not just watching videos, you're hacking your brain. You're upgrading how humans learn. And honestly, that's smarter than most textbooks ever gave you credit for.